Welcome to Death and Aliens, an in-depth look at horror and sci-fi TV from two friends who vaguely know what they're doing. I'm MK.
And I'm Courtney. How's it going?
It's going. I swear I had things I was going to share, and I don't know what they are.
I can start. I have some things to share.
Share.
I'd like to get off my chest. So my week, if you listened to last episode, you know it's not been well. But on top of that, my darling dog, who I love dearly, God bless her. So I put a Coke in the freezer. Mistake number one. I know, my bad. And I have one of those, you haven't been to my apartment yet, but I have one of those like mini fridges is my fridge. Mm-hmm. And so I had the freezer, and while I was at work one day, it was the day I went to Aladdin, so I was gone for like 1,000 hours. And it exploded and burst my freezer door open. And it's a mini fridge, so it's not that high off the ground. So my darling dog pulled things out of the freezer. She did not eat them all. She just pulled a lot of things out of the freezer. But she did get a hold of my sausage, my good sausage, and ate that.
Well, on the one hand, aggravating. On the other hand, at least it's not something that can hurt her.
So yes, let's start there. That's a good thing. That was my thought. Night one. We are on night 3. This dog has had to go outside almost every hour. We finally slowed down, but we were going outside every hour to go to the bathroom. I was up at all hours of the mornings the last 2 nights, and I haven't slept in what feels like 3 weeks because of my dog who had to get into my freezer and have herself a party. So
get it together, Sadie.
I know. But on a positive note, I think I mentioned last week that we had a new girl starting at the office. Yeah. They're lovely. I love them both. Their names are Nora and Jessica. And turns out one of them got COVID right after she started because her boyfriend had COVID. So we haven't seen her this week. But today me and Sarah took Nora to lunch, and we went to this little Italian place around the corner on 9th Avenue. And it was so good. We had wine. It's really good wine that I'd never had before. It was a Tuscan blend, which I like. But I forgot what it was called already. And it was such a nice, and we left early. So we went at like 2 to go to lunch, and then we didn't go back to work. Well, I think Sarah did, but I didn't. And Nora didn't. And we had a lovely day. And then I got home and I just laid around. I watched Dead Like Me and then laid around and did nothing.
I forgot that the weekend is part of the week. And I haven't talked to you guys about my last weekend.
Right.
It was my sister's birthday. Not the one in Houston. The one that's here, actually. So her and her boyfriend came over and we played card games and like had a family dinner, and it was really nice. And I forgot that there was like actually a good part of my week.
I love that. There is nothing I love more than a game night and dinner.
Same. It is literally my favorite thing.
We will game night it up when you come visit me.
For sure. My 5th graders are fully obsessed with The Bachelor. They want me to date Clayton, and if not, they would like me to be the Bachelorette so that they can plan the dates. Not because they want me to find love. They just want to plan my life for me.
I would also really like you to be the Bachelorette. I mean, it'd be cool if you found love because I know that's what you want, but could you imagine the drama?
Could you imagine the drama that I would just like start for myself? Like
absolutely.
Like, you know, that TikTok where she's like, am I the drama? No, I'm not the drama. Like, that is me.
I do not know, but I believe you. I would need to be fully invested in I would need to be involved in your season. And I would need to know everything. I don't care if you sign an NDA. I won't tell ABC. And there is nothing I don't think that would bring me more joy in my life.
Yeah, well, I'm too fat.
Well,
no, I don't even mean that I really think I'm fat. There was a scandal this past week because this girl posted a video on TikTok explaining how she was ghosted by producers because she's a size 6.
Oh, okay.
And
That's
like
not gonna,
like most of America.
Right.
There's that. But speaking of TV shows, today I did something stupid. And I already told you this, but I showed my 8th graders my television spreadsheet.
It is incredible.
They were fascinated, like beyond amazed. And they were like, how are you going to watch that much TV? Like, why would you watch that much TV? I was like, it's for my job. And they're like, what's your job? I was like, well, I'm getting my PhD in TV. And they were like, what? I was like, which is technically not untrue. Like, that's my goal, is to get a PhD. And I've talked about, like, before what I want the PhD to be in. But to a 13-year-old, like, it really just sounds like I'm getting my PhD in TV.
Right.
So they are now even more impressed with me as a human.
They should be.
Which is my goal, honestly, because my 8th graders are my favorite people on the planet.
Yes. I also mentioned I have not been taking my medicine, which has included my allergy medicine. I'm fine. But speaking of TV, I finally finished Castle.
Fantastic.
And it was everything I could have dreamed of and more. Highly recommend if you haven't watched it, even though it came out like 15 years ago. But
not quite, but like
I think it came out in like 2007.
Yeah, no, it just ended much later than that.
Oh,
like,
yeah,
it might have started in 15, like, yeah, but I was like,
yeah, no, there were like 8 seasons, so it just ended, like, because they went to, when I was in New Orleans, and we were at Mardi Gras, Nathan Fillion and Katie, she has a last name. The 2 main characters were on one of the floats at Mardi Gras that year. And so like
it started in 2009 and in 2016.
Yeah. That must have been the finale year that I saw them then on the float. I had not watched the show yet, but I saw them and I of course knew who Nathan Fillion was.
So there I met you.
Oh my goodness. That's so nice.
It's so weird now that I like say that out loud. It's so weird to think about the fact that like I've known you and Kate for 6 years.
6 years? That's so many years. And I've only seen you like 4 times in person. That's a tragedy.
Well, I did live on the other side of the planet for half of those 6 years.
Right. Yeah. But I've started my new show and it's excellent. It is Burn Notice.
Love.
And I had no idea, but the only knowledge I had about this show was when I took an entertainment law class at Loyola, and one of his examples was using this show as an example of no one knows what this show is about. And I don't know why, because now that I've watched it, like, it's clear what it's about. Yeah. But like apparently that was a running like joke in entertainment because SNL did a skit on it. Like it was very strange. So that was all I knew about this show before I watched it.
I absolutely love Burn Notice. I finished binge watching it in 2013. I only know this because it was the year that I lived in New York City. Mm-hmm. And I distinctly remember I had watched something else that was like vaguely spy related. And then I binge watched all of Burn Notice in like 3 weeks.
Yeah, it's not going to take me long. I'm on season 3. Right?
And I was sitting on the subway and someone's phone went off next to me. And I immediately, like, without question, like, to this day, I do not know what came over me, but without question, without hesitation, without thought, I was like, oh my God, it's a bomb. Like, there was nothing, no. And then I was like, no, that's probably not true. Like, but my first gut reaction was, it's a bomb. And I go, I think I'm gonna need to take a break from spy shows for a minute because that was a moment. I had a full-on panic attack in the New York City subway because I thought the person next to me's cell phone was a bomb.
So that's not funny, but funny because I had a similar reaction this week. I didn't think it was a bomb, but whenever I was walking down the street the other day, I was like, there's a guy behind me. And if he comes up behind me or if he pulls out a gun, I bet I could take it. I was like, no, I can't. No, I can't. I am a small woman who has very weak extremities. Like, I am not one to take a gun from a grown man.
Yeah, no.
But
so Burn
he was
Notice,
fine. He just walked right past me. He was a very normal person. It was
also the lead actor in Burn Notice is so hot.
Very attractive. Very into him, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it's a great show. Speaking of great shows.
Oh, I see what you did there.
Oh, I do, yeah. This week, I'm so sorry. My allergies have just kicked in, and I don't know. So here we are. So we watched Dead Like Me, season 2, episode 4, and it was rated 8.3 out of 10, which may be the highest rating we've had.
It is the highest rating so far. It is not the highest rated of the show, period.
No, but so far where we're at.
Yes.
It was called The Shallow End, which is very true.
Yeah.
It came out August 15th, 2004. The number one song, I'm a little upset because I was really pumped about it. And then it was also your number one song. It was Slow Motion by Juvenile. The bop we talked about last week.
Yeah.
And the number one movie was Alien versus Predator, which I've never seen. I've only seen the first one, the first Alien. I haven't seen any of the Predator.
I've never seen any Alien or Predator movies.
I don't even know that I've seen the entire Alien movie.
No, but I've just seen this.
But I've definitely seen a lot of it, if not all of it. Like, I think I fell asleep watching it with my dad.
I've seen the scene that it was on the Great Movie Ride. And
God bless, I missed the Great Movie Ride.
And then I've seen the scene where the alien pops out of the guy's chest.
Yes. I have also seen those scenes. Gosh, I love the Great Movie Ride. I'm still sad about that. It's fine. We gotta move. Everything's changing. It's a great, big, beautiful tomorrow.
Everything's changing. Sorry, we were just talking about Avril Lavigne, and that is an Avril Lavigne song.
Yes.
Anyway.
So, the director, we have a new director, Sarah Pia Anderson, and she has done a lot of good things. She's most known for Prime Suspect 4, Inner Circle, Scott and Bailey, The L Word, Good Girls. I have watched Good Girls. My favorites that she's worked on are Gilmore Girls, Veronica Mars, and Grey's Anatomy.
That makes sense. Okay, those 3 make sense because I was like, I've heard that name. Why do I know that name? But then you said
Well, also she's from the UK, and so she's done some BBC shows. Like, I think Scott and Bailey and Prime Suspect were both BBC.
Those are both British.
And she's also done a lot of theater work.
Okay.
Like with the Royal Globe Theater and stuff like that. So you also may have heard about her because of theater.
Yeah.
But yeah. So
what was Susan P. Anderson? Oh yeah. Well, because when I Googled her playbill came up before her IMDb.
Right.
Oh, she directed Hedda Gabler. Okay.
Yes. Yeah, so that is her. She's great. The writers for this episode were Stephen Gottschall. Shocker. Oh, I am so sorry. That told me to take my medicine. I will do that today. And Carl Gadjusek.
Okay.
I think that's how you say it. He's worked on a lot of things I haven't watched, but his main stuff that he's worked on was The Kingsman and Oblivion. But
I like Oblivion.
Heard good things. Heard good things. Never seen it.
I was mad that I liked Oblivion because I tend to assume that I'm going to hate everything that Tom Cruise does because I hate Tom Cruise. But then every time I watch another movie of Tom Cruise's that's actually good, it like makes me a little more angry inside. Right. And Oblivion was actually really good, and I was pissed.
Well, that's a shame. Maybe I'll have to watch it. But fun fact, he was also the showrunner for the first season of Stranger Things.
Okay.
So that was interesting.
I've only watched season 3.
I watched like 4 episodes. Me and Rachel were going to watch it together, and then I don't know what happened. Our lives fell apart. Who knows? This was in New Orleans, so we ordered Chinese food and then had a bad day. I had a meltdown. I don't even know what I was melting down about, but
I have a meltdown daily. I walked into work this morning at the same time as one of my friends, one of my coworkers, and I go, "Hey, would you rather be dead than be here right now?" She was like, "Oh, me, yes. Thank God we are in this together." And my best friend was not even at work yet. She was texting me. She was like, "I'm running late purely because I don't want to be there."
Fair.
Like, yeah.
Fair. I was 45 minutes late to work this morning.
Like the thing is, I love my job. I love the school. I love the kids, but there are just some mornings when the idea of going to work.
No, I feel that. I actually really like my new position at the office.
Right.
And I don't dread being there anymore, which is nice. And we have Jessica and Nora started, and I really like them. And the guy who took over my position, Sadiq, I really like him.
Yeah.
So I don't despise being there, but my week has been so out of whack that the idea of getting out of the bed and going to a place made me want to die.
Well, and this was also our first 5-day week in almost a month.
Yes.
Because we had the 3-day week before Christmas, then we had Christmas break, and then last week we had a snow day. So having 5 days of work, I was like, I can't do this.
I feel that. Well, don't worry. Next week you get 4 days again.
That's true.
All right. So this episode starts out with what I thought was George pretending to drown. It seems we're going to figure out more by the end of this episode. But I just assumed she was being dramatic because of her monologue and talking about how if people like you or not. It's a flashback of her as a small child. And your face. Would you like to?
My note says George is me. And I was trying to remember what she said that made me say that. And I just remembered what it was.
What did she say?
Her mom was telling her that she couldn't wear her floaties, or that she had to wear floaties because she wasn't a really good swimmer. And she goes, "I'd rather be dead." And I was like, oh, I relate.
So that's funny because when I said it seemed like she was drowning to see if anyone would save her, my next question was, did you ever do that? Because I feel like it would be something you would do.
No, I did try to drown myself in the pool a few times. But not to see if someone would save me, just to see if I could. Because, you know how your brain won't let you drown yourself? I was like, well, my brain's messed up. Maybe it will.
Fair, yes. I'm glad that didn't
it didn't work. Plan. And also, I was a really good swimmer, so it really didn't work.
Unlike George, who is apparently not a great swimmer, it immediately made me think of Finding Nemo. And she said, "You're not a strong swimmer." I was like, "You have a bad fin." But it's fine. And then she starts talking about Beth Ann Miller being less cool than she is, and I was just like, poor Beth Ann Miller.
No, not poor Beth Ann Miller.
In the beginning, it seems that way.
True.
And then, when she's ending this whole little discussion of her flashback, she says that she's been thinking of crossing over. She says it's easier to do in death. And I was like, you don't get to decide that, I don't think.
Yeah.
I know Betty did, but I think she wasn't supposed to decide that.
Yeah. Correct.
So I was like, I don't know why you're considering it. I don't think that's a thing you get to consider. Anyways, that just felt a little out of place. But
yeah.
Then we pop over to Reggie and Joy, and Joy's trying to get her to do things like a normal teenager or 12-year-old. And she's like, and I will say, this bit is getting a little old. She's reminding her mom that like everyone does drugs and steals things. I'm like, this is like the 4th episode now. I think we've had this conversation. And like, yes, this happened, but also it's only been in this season we've talked about it. Like,
right.
It's a little much.
That scene was a little much, except there was one part of that scene that I did really like. Her mom was like, do you want to go to the mall and get a new sweater? And she was like, yeah, because that is tragic.
Yeah.
And she was like, I was talking about for you.
Yeah. Yeah, no, the scenes between Reggie and Joy are fine, but just that one particular bit, I'm like, we've run this into the ground.
Yeah.
But yes, and then we have the flashback. We have a lot of like the flashback swimming where like nothing really happens. They just flash back for a few seconds. So probably just gonna slide right through those. So then we're at the diner, and Tiffany is just, I love her. I adore her. She is ignoring this guy who thinks he's clearly got the suit and thinks he's better than everyone, and working in a bar in Times Square. I see these people every day. Well, once a week now when I work, but when I work, they're there. And I absolutely love that she's just like ignoring him, and they go into this whole thing about.
I was gonna say, the thing I love the most about that scene isn't what Tiffany's actually doing. It's the commentary on what Tiffany's doing. Like, Mason and Daisy are fully in cahoots, and he's teaching her about like terrible people.
I know, and they were like, if you withhold like your response, or I don't remember how they said it exactly, but like withholding any type of like acknowledgement, then that makes them want you more, which then becomes obviously the theme for the entire episode.
Yeah.
But also in this scene, we see Mason's underwear for the millionth time. He never changes his underwear. Like, it's always the same. Or he has like 17 pair that have the Union Jack on it.
I'm gonna, for my own sanity, say that he just has only underwear that has Union Jacks on it.
I prefer that answer.
Yeah.
I'm not sure it's true, though. I'm not sure that's correct.
Let's just go with that.
Okay.
I'm trying to think what he said, though, because my next note just says that Mason is the dumbest person ever.
My next note also says Mason's a moron. So
I don't remember what he said, but he... Oh, no, I know what it was. Roxy shows up, and she's like he's still talking about people withholding their love and everything, and he's like, Roxy, that's how she gets power. She doesn't give anything to anybody. And he's like, she strikes fear in everyone. And she was like, I strike fear with my 9mm. And he was like, is that pepper spray on your belt? She was like, yeah. And she gave it to him, and then he sprayed it on his food. She goes, pepper spray's not pepper, right? And he was like, funny joke.
Oh my gosh, I was like, how on earth?
And then he got obviously sick because he ate it like eggs covered in pepper spray.
Right.
And then he was like freaking out, and Tiffany was like, are you okay? He was like, the eggs weren't very good this morning. She was like, maybe if you had maced them.
I would like to see more Tiffany. Like, I'd love a good 2 or 3 Tiffany one-liners every episode. We just don't get enough of her. Because she is golden every time she speaks.
And then the best part of that episode, though, like, Mason's being all dumb and everything, and Rube is just like not giving him the time of day. And Mason's like, Rube, that's how you do it. You withhold love. And Rube said, how can I withhold that which I do not have?
Burn.
And I was like, how I feel all of the time.
I know. I get it. Today we were when I was at lunch with Nora and Sarah, we were just kind of getting to know each other because Nora's been there a little over a week now. And she was talking about her boyfriend, and Sarah was talking about her boyfriend, and she was like, oh, do you have a significant, do you date boys, do you date girls? I was like, I hate people. was like, I do not. I was like, I have dated boys in the past. But now I just don't date anyone because I don't like them. I was like, I do not love anyone.
I matched with a guy on Hinge last week, and we actually talked for like a couple days straight.
Ooh.
And then I was thinking about giving him my actual number, and he like never responded to the last message I sent. But that was 2 days ago, and I realized I don't care that he didn't respond.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it
happens.
It's a mess out there.
It's really hard. Like, I want to get married and have a family. I just also hate everyone, and I don't.
See, my problem is I don't want kids. I probably want to get married, give or take, but it's like, because that's not like a goal of mine, I have no desire to like get started. Like,
listen, if I could get married and start having children yesterday, I would do it. Except that I hate every man I've ever met.
I mean, they're not great. They're not great. Just like across the board. Yeah. Speaking of men who are not great, we are now at Happy Times, and George walks in. She's late because this guy was working on his lawnmower and it chopped him to pieces. I assume. We did not see the pieces of his body, but she
said he was trying to fix his lawnmower and he was successful. So I can only imagine what happened.
Right. And so instead of like changing or doing anything like a normal person would, she just shows up to work with blood splatter all over her clothes. And she tells everyone it's a red Slurpee. And I was like, those things look a little different. And our new guy, Ethan from IT, confirms that they do look different. He is a character. Yes.
He's the worst. He's why men like him are why I don't date. Get out of my face.
He is so much like on my nerves. Like, I get why George started being mean. It was nice of her, but like, I get it.
Yeah.
But she shows up and he's like at her desk working on stuff, and she like knocks him in the head. And apparently when he gets knocked in the head, he immediately like vomits.
That's called a traumatic brain injury caused by too many concussions, and you should not be in public. Like, wear a helmet.
Right. Like,
if you get that nauseous that fast from getting hit in the head, you need help.
Right. So that's not good. And then apparently when he sees blood, he also wants to throw up. And he was like, I've had enough injuries that I know that that's not a Slurpee, it's blood.
Which again confirms the fact that he's been concussed a few too many times and should not be working in information services.
No, absolutely. He should not. He needs to go home and go to bed. That's my diagnosis for him. And
before she meets him, though, she does in the monologue over it say that sometimes work makes your personal life feel like it's not crazy. And as a teacher, I've never related to anything more than that statement.
I believe it. I mean, working at a bar, it's just working with older children who have alcohol. So I don't have to teach them anything or keep up with them, though, which is great. But you see some things.
Yeah. I don't really see a lot of crazy things, but I hear things that I just wish I had never heard.
I mean, there are people that come in the bar that don't seem to understand there are also other people in the bar. There was a couple who tried to like make out on the bar one day, and I was just like, and we were all staring at them because it was not pleasant.
No.
And we were all staring and making faces at them, and not once did they notice us. And we were like in a group doing this. It wasn't like we were just like hiding. No, we were very openly like giving them a look like that. It was suddenly that happens too often. Yeah. So the reason that Ethan, IT guy, is at her desk is because of, quote unquote, the Nazi issue. And they're like, what? And he's like, it seems that someone's been sending emails and Nazi propaganda and stuff. And she's like, oh, who's that? And he's like, well, it looks like it's you. Because someone has hacked her computer and has been sending Nazi propaganda to everyone. So now everyone in the office thinks she's a Nazi. And she stands up and tells everyone on top of her desk and tells them she's not. And my next note just says, is Dolores a Nazi? Because while all of this is happening, Dolores tells her, she says, oh, I know what you mean. I've the tattoos I've had to have removed. And George just looks at her. And then she starts being like, she's like, yeah, Dolores, I'm not a Nazi. She's like, I know in here, it seems like it.
She said, no. Like, she said, in here, none of us really are.
Right. And so I'm like, so like on the outside then, are you a Nazi? You got Nazi tattoos? Like, maybe keep that to yourself. Maybe that's something you don't share.
I didn't even pick up on that. I just thought she was being a weirdo again.
I mean, she was definitely being a weirdo, but also she might be a Nazi weirdo, which is like,
that is concerning.
Great. Yeah. Maybe that was during her Coke days.
Well,
her homeless people day. No, if she was a Nazi, she probably wouldn't have taken in homeless people. Must have been a different time.
Well, she wasn't taking them in for anything other than to have sex with them.
Yeah, but from what I understand about Nazis, with no personal experience, they're very like prejudiced against who they like allow into their circle.
Yes, but not based on your housing status, just based on other things, like whether you're gay or Jewish.
So class doesn't factor into it?
Not really, not as much.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. Good to know.
I mean, we just finished reading Anne Frank in my 8th grade class, so I have a much more fresh knowledge of Nazis.
My most recent knowledge of Nazis is that movie, Jojo Rabbit.
Oh, the one that's a fictional story.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, that is my most recent knowledge of Nazis, is the fictional movie.
Fantastic.
Yes. That's how I get all my knowledge in life, from fiction movies and TV shows. That's how I make my life decisions. So now George just starts acting like the biggest jerk on the planet. She is super mean to Ethan. I mean, he's kind of a moron. I want to be mean to him, but like, you still should be mean to people.
But the problem is she's really mean to him, and he becomes like a simp.
Yeah, and I really hate that word, by the way. I'm not a fan. I understand it's a popular word now, but I don't know why I don't like it.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say, can you elaborate, or you just don't like it? Oh, okay.
I just don't like it. Just a fun fact.
Okay.
That's why I made that face when you said it. I agree with you. I just don't like the word. But yeah, and then she says that withholding affection is magic. And like, it appears to be.
Okay.
But
sorry. Yes. And this is again back to Avril Lavigne, because Avril Lavigne's newest song that has not come out yet, it's coming out like next week, is called I Love It When You Hate Me. And it's talking about how she knows it's toxic, but she's only attracted to you if you hate her. And I was talking to my friend the other day about this guy that we know who's like probably interested in me. And she was like, why don't you just date him? And I go, because he likes me. And somehow, like, the idea of how much he could potentially like me is a turnoff.
Right.
So, in fact, withholding affection does make people like you more. Mostly toxic people like me.
Yes. Excellent. I do understand that dilemma. Maybe we should go to therapy.
Probably.
That's my solution for that. Prozac only does so many things for you.
Medication does not cure everything.
Right. Well, that's why we have wine. It's the second half of the cure. That's what I say, at least. So now we're flashing back again to swimming lessons. I don't actually know. I think it's lessons. Maybe just hanging out at the pool. Who knows? And it looks like she's gonna push this poor girl into the pool. And I'm just like waiting, like on the edge. And I'm like, Georgia's gonna do something so jerk-like, because she keeps talking about change her life and all this stuff. And I was just like, I don't know what's about to happen. So at this point, I'm real mad at George because she's about to push this girl in the pool. And then we immediately come back out of that flashback. And Mason has gone to find his Post-it note reap at the pool. And the guy will not let him come in until he is changed into swim gear.
You can't go to the pool. You can't go into the pool in clothes.
I guess. But he just need to like talk to the guy. He didn't need to like go swimming.
But he did.
I guess. He changes into his underwear, his Union Jack underwear.
What would you do if you didn't have a bathing suit with you and somebody said you had to go in the pool and not in clothes? I would also do it in my underwear.
Yeah, but this underwear, God bless, someone needs to take him shopping. I just need him to have new clothes. I need him to wear normal things and to change clothes every
homeless chic is kind of his thing.
It is, and I'm real over it. You know who isn't? I bet Dolores will love it.
I love it.
Don't be Dolores. She is not the model. Do not do cocaine and do not be a Nazi.
Or other things that have come up later in this episode.
Yes. So, and then we go over to Daisy, who is at the plastic surgeon's office looking for her reap. And because she cannot find her, she just sits down and waits. And she's like, I'll make an appointment. I'll have a consultation. And then she just sits there and everyone's like...
I wrote Daisy is a hoot because the girl next to her is like looking at her and she's like, oh, well, it can't be here for her face. So then the other girl starts like looking at her chest and Daisy just goes, these are perfectly fine. Thank you.
Right. I loved it. And then we go back to Mason at the pool and all these old men are naked. They are not wearing any clothes. And I just put in all caps, what type of pool is this? I do not understand what's happening. Why is no one wearing clothes? And they're all old people and Mason. I'm just very upset about it. And then we see the gravelings come out from under the pool, like drainage area. And I was just like, these little gravelings, they come from anywhere. They don't care. They squeeze through everything. And then we go to Reggie, who's also being a jerk. I'm guessing we weren't there long because I just put, why is Reggie being such a jerk? And then moved on to my next sentence. So I don't think we have seen a lot from her yet.
I think that might be when she told her mom that she was
being annoying.
That she was embarrassing her and like being annoying at the mall.
Yeah, probably. Yes, that seems right based on what's coming next. So then we're back at the pool, and I have a lot of questions about gravelings. I don't like in order for this guy to die, the graveling pees on the diving board, and I'm like,
hold on, before he does that,
yes,
there's something when this man gets out of the pool to go to the diving board, and Mason touches him to take his soul. Mason comments on how enormous this man's testicles are, which is only important because it comes up at least 80 to more times this episode.
Right.
But I laughed so hard I almost peed myself because I have a friend who in college, when doing a show, had to get a dance belt, which is the thing that holds your junk while you're dancing. And we didn't know what to do because the dance belt that he had did not fit because his balls are massive. you know this friend?
I was going to ask.
And so anytime somebody says something about someone's balls being too big, that's immediately what I think of. And I just can't.
So funny. And now I will never see him again and not think about you telling me that story. Maybe I'll just never see him again. That's
I'm not saying
easier.
his name because that's personal information.
Right. Yes. No, that is fine. I know exactly who you're talking about. And that is, I should just never see him again. Because I'm only going to think about that and be very uncomfortable. So.
What a time.
Good times. Yes. Yeah, so gravelings can apparently pee on things to make you fall. I don't understand their rules because you can't see them and you don't really feel them when they touch you, but like they can pee on stuff and you can fall. I don't know.
They're just weird little demon creatures who do whatever they want.
Yeah. But that's a way to go. I've had that fear.
Is a way to go.
That's one of the many fears in my life that I've had when I've been on like double diving boards. I'm like, what if I hit the other one and die?
If you dive correctly off of a diving board, you should not.
No, absolutely not. You should never do that. But my brain says, what if this happens and you die? And I didn't die any of the times that I said that in my head, but
good, I'm glad.
Yes, thank you. And then I have a question about more rule questions. So this guy wants to go to his funeral. It's a rule you can't go. Fine, I got that. Why is it a rule? Like, what is the reasoning? Because no one can see you. You can't interfere. Why can't you go to your funeral and then be on your way?
It is probably more. There's probably a lot of pieces to it. One of them is that it's just too much time of your body wandering around Earth.
Well, our old racist lady, she was around for a few days, and funerals happen fairly quickly.
She wasn't actually around for a few days. She was probably around for an entire day that she shouldn't have been, but not. Part of it is that, like, remember when George was at her own funeral and she was like making doors move and stuff, even though she didn't have a body yet? Like, you can mess with people. So it's not really a good idea. And also, like, it's just emotionally damaging.
Yeah. I mean, yes, that would be the reason I would accept as emotionally damaging. But I don't understand why it's a rule necessarily. I want them to tell me why it's a rule instead of just telling me it's a rule.
They're never going to do that.
I know. But if you give me a rule and don't give me a reason, I don't understand why I can't break it. I need a good reason.
Sound like all of the middle schoolers.
Yes. Well, this is why I don't have kids. Because I need a reason. I'm happy to follow the rules if you give me a reason that makes sense. Or if it's like a generic, like, don't run red light. I mean, that's got a good reason, I guess, though. But like, if there's something that's like a rule that's just like a generic rule, I'm happy about it. But just knocked everything over. I'm so sorry. That was probably very loud on the microphone.
It's fine.
It is getting late. My brain is shutting down. So now we're at the mall again, and this store worker has attached herself to Reggie, and I don't understand why she came out of nowhere. I mean, by the end I did, but in the beginning I was like, how did she just like pick out this child and decide she was going to be super nice to her and talk to her?
See, I got a bad vibe from her immediately.
I also did. But then it also made me think of, what was her name? Jenny from Hemlock Grove. Yeah. And I was so mad because I was like, she is not Jenny.
No, she's not Jenny.
But that's like the same feeling I got, even though I didn't trust her. And she like gives her this little hair clip and like tells her how to like find some good clothes and stuff like that. And Joy, she's like, Reggie's like, or the store worker says, I've got her. And Joy's like, well, I birthed her, but you got her. Sure. It's like, It's like, that's when you're embarrassing, Joy. But like, you know, to be fair, Reggie's been a jerk this whole time. So like,
Yeah. No,
you're free to be obnoxious. So then we go back to happy time for a minute, and George is still acting like a jerk to just everyone. And Ethan is still at her desk, which I do not understand. He works in IT. He's done. He did it. He needs to go back to his office now. But he is just like attached to her.
I related to George a lot in this moment, not because of the being mean or abusing someone else's like willingness to help you, but because he put Post-it notes on the pages in her book, and she immediately was like, I don't like Post-its, and like freaked out a little bit. And I too have things that I irrationally do not like and will not explain to other people why I do not like them.
And that's okay. That's fine. I understood her in that moment.
Yeah.
Because we also know why she hates Post-its.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was an okay part. But the rest of being mean was so unnecessary. And then we go back to the flashback and see she didn't push the girl into the pool, and now she's dead to the cool people forever. And it's a bummer, but she wasn't actually a jerk as a child, which is good. And we go back to the plastic surgeon, and it turns out S. Samuels is actually a man, and he is transitioning into a woman is his plan. And I just think that this show was so ahead of its time, because it was like just talked about as like a normal thing. No one like made a big deal about it or tried to make a joke about it in the scene. It was just like, this is a thing people do.
I do think that it was ahead of its time in the way that they normalized it, but it was also still very modern in the sense that I don't think the emotional and religious like damage that Stan felt would be talked about in a show today.
I think it depends on the show, because it is something that, again, I'm not transitioning, so I'm not there, but it seems like this is a lot of things that people like. I know my friends who are gay have gone through very similar things with religion and stuff like that.
No, but I think that what I mean by that is not that humans don't go through that, but because so much of our current media is trying so hard to be like, absolutely everyone is valid in everything that they believe all the time. You're all welcome to be a lizard if you want to, like the whole, no, because I mean, it's gone a little out of control sometimes, but I think because the media is trying so hard to make it be like, there's no struggle. That's just, you wake up and you know that you're wrong gender. So like it's not that anguish doesn't happen inside of people. It's the way it's portrayed as being anguishing. Yes. Wouldn't happen today, because then that would go against the narrative that everything is okay all the time.
Yes, I do agree with that. And especially like, I mean, even in just the past couple of years since COVID hit, everyone wants to make everything okay all the time. Yeah. And it's like, I get that. I too would like everything to be okay all the time.
Yeah, but so that's what I mean. Like in the normalization, it was definitely ahead of its time, but in the making it a real emotional pain and not just something that you are free to do is what is the part of it that wouldn't be shown in a TV show today.
Right. And I agree with that a lot. And I think that's what made this scene more powerful. I mean, I don't think it wouldn't have been a good plot line in this show without it, because it was so like,
it was so powerful.
Boring before. Like he was just talking about it. It's like, he died and it's over. And she waited for him, and then he was there, and then he died. Like, it was like just step by step, nothing happened. And so like without the emotion, it would have been.
But it also has so much to do with Daisy's arc of religion too. And I really appreciated all of it.
I did too. I thought it was really well done. And I lost my spot in my notes. Yeah, so I really liked that. And then we jumped back to the mall. And it seemed like the guy at the counter was hitting on Joy, and I couldn't tell or not. I was like, is this child trying to hit on Joy, or is he just trying to make a sell? Because I'm not really sure. But
both,
he did
maybe.
say, yes, maybe that's where I was at. But he did say, he was talking about the different types of lipstick, and you do need a new lipstick after a breakup.
Yeah.
There are many times in life when you need a new lipstick, but after a breakup's definitely one of them. So,
but like, also, I appreciate the names that he gave those lipsticks, which were clearly not their actual names, but I appreciate like lipstick names. Like, I once had this really awesome purple lipstick, and it was called Shame. And I remember the first time I wore it, I posted a picture and I was like, my lipstick shade is Shame because I've never felt any.
You're so dramatic.
Thanks.
I love it. I love it so much. But you are very dramatic.
Oops.
So then we're back at Happy Times for a second, and she's again being mean to. She was mean to Crystal, and I was just waiting for the second.
I was so mad at her for being mean to Crystal, but also Dolores was watching her be mean to Crystal, and I couldn't figure out if Dolores was pro George being a bitch or anti George being a bitch.
I think she was mad at her.
See, I thought so too until something she said at the end, and then I was like,
yeah. I think she was mad at her, but we'll get to. Yeah. But I sure thought Crystal was going to smack her. I was ready for it, and then she did not. And then we go back to Mason.
We're with Mason and Theo, the old man, in the park, and Theo's talking about how he's feeling and everything, and he goes, "Are you sure no one can see me?" And Nathan was like, "Yeah." And he was like, "Yes." And he just started walking around naked, like dancing in front of people. And I said, I too would probably do that. Yeah. If I died naked and then I was walking around in public, knew no one would be able to see me, I would probably also be obnoxious about it.
I would also probably do it. Like, who wouldn't do that?
Right.
It's like the thing of like, if you were invisible, like.
If I was invisible, I'd never put clothes on.
Exactly. Why would you?
Right. Except for when I was cold.
Right. I was about to say, like, especially when it's hot out. Like.
Right.
So. But he's just trying to get Theo to cross over, and he don't want to do it. He's not going to do it till after his funeral. So then we go back to Stan. This is where Stan dies, and he just wants to go to church. And I don't know what that word says.
I don't know.
He says you have no.
I don't know.
This word might be. It looks like cries, but it looks like CRY''S. And I do not know what that's supposed to say.
I can't even.
Could be chip. These are words that it looks like. I don't know what I was talking about there. It's been a minute. It's late at night. Stan said something, and I don't know what it was.
Yeah.
It's fine. We're back at the mall. Reggie, like, Joy comes up, and she's in this whole new outfit. She's got the red lipstick on, and Reggie tells her she looks like a newscaster. And I was like, what newscaster are you watching?
I was like, what channel do you watch the news on?
I was like, I've never seen a newscaster look like this, first of all. I was like, you're insane. And then Joy gets hit on, and she's like, news. What'd she say?
Something about like newscaster, okay. My ass.
Oh, that's right. And oh my gosh, it was so funny. I love Joy. And then we're back at Happy Times. And she's yelling at Ethan again about Post-it notes and all of this, and she throws down the binder. And it turns out he had made an origami swan for her, and she crushed it. And I just put that she crushed his swan and his heart. And this
apparently his career.
Apparently that was the breaking point, was crushing his swan origami. Just like,
so, although when you do work really hard on origami, it is kind of devastating when anything happens to it. And like some of the origami animals are like really intense.
Yeah. Like I used to do origami a lot as a child.
In my 3rd grade class last year in Thailand, we did a project where the kids had to like make an animal, like they had to research an endangered animal or an animal and talk about whether it was endangered. And they had to do all this research on like habitat and everything. And then they had to present it, but they had to make something to go with it. Like so a lot of them just like drew pictures and stuff. I had a couple kids who like made full on like habitat, like dioramas. One of my boys made an origami lion. It was amazing.
I bet.
I'll post a picture of it on the Instagram.
Yeah. Yes, please do, because I want to see it too.
Yeah. And if anything I've never taken such care of paper in my life, because if anything had happened to that lion while it was in my custody, I would have been devastated.
I don't blame you. Ugh. Yeah. So she crushed his swan in his heart. And then we flash back to Beth Ann again. And she's like, I used to be nice. And then we go to her and she's asking Beth Ann why she's so weird. I was like, I don't think that's a nice thing. I was like, I don't know what your definition of nice is, George, but that's not it.
Why do you have to be so weird? And Beth Ann said, I don't know. And I was like, poor child.
I know, poor Beth Ann for now. And then we go back to happy times, and Dolores is talking about...
Well, okay, first, hold on. Crystal walks by and gets revenge because she knocks all of George's papers off the ledge of her cubicle. Mm-hmm. And so then George is picking them back up, and Dolores comes over to help her. And George is like, I'm so sorry, Dolores. And Dolores is like, I understand being mean. Back when I had all my restraining orders.
I was like, what?
So now she's done coke. She used to bring homeless men into her home for the night just to screw them. And she's also had multiple restraining orders.
Multiple.
This woman.
Dolores. She kills me. And throughout all of this, she tells George, Ethan quit. She broke him, apparently. And
this is when I no longer understood Dolores' motivation, because she asked George what happened, and George was like, yeah, I just had a bad day. And she goes, no, Ethan had a bad day, and winked at her. And I was like, so do you want her to be a cutthroat bitch, or like do you not? Because I'm very confused on your motivation.
Yeah, I don't know. Look, Dolores is a conundrum. There is no telling what she actually wants in life. So go back to Daisy, but I feel like we've discussed that already, so we're going to keep going. And Reggie, and we're back at Reggie, and she is just being such a jerk. And I was trying to like think about it, and I was like, I do not remember. I mean, I'm sure I was kind of a jerk at that age, but I don't remember being that much of a jerk at 12. Like,
I was that bad.
I just don't think I was. Like, I was a nice child.
No, I was for sure that bad.
Ugh, I just can't imagine. Did you get smacked?
Yep.
Okay. You probably deserved it. But...
Oh, for sure I deserved it.
I just can't imagine. Oh my gosh, I would have smacked so many times. Ugh.
Well, but that's the problem is Joy doesn't smack her.
I know. She just lets her go. I'm like, you don't even say anything. You just let her talk to you like this and don't say anything. Ugh, I'm distraught. So then we're back at the diner, and George is asking Mason if he cares if people like him.
And he says no. But Mason, I wrote, Mason cares more about people liking him than anyone that has ever walked the face of planet Earth.
He does. Well, as soon as he says no, he immediately says, why? Did Daisy say something to you? It's like, what? Obviously, no, first of all. But, oh my gosh, he was like, then he kept asking everyone, and he comes into the diner because he wants Rue to get rid of Theo because he just can't handle it. And Roxy, this was kind of sad. Roxy tells him that he's never met a problem he can't run from. And I was like, that is very true, but that's also very sad. Mason's
but then I think Roxy saying that kind of kicked his butt into gear.
No, I just put Mason did good.
Because so Mason tried to reason with Theo and it didn't work. So then Rube was trying to reason with Theo and that it wasn't going very well. And Mason comes over and he's thinking back to all the things Theo has said to him over the past day. And Theo has mentioned Betty quite a few times. And Mason says something to Theo. He says, how long ago did Betty die? At this point, we've never actually been told that Betty's dead. Mason just could tell from the way Theo was talking about her because he has a heart and he understands people even when he doesn't. And Theo says 7 years. He's like, then why are you keeping her waiting anymore?
It seems like he was just avoiding leaving because he didn't know what to do. He's got to go to Betty, the love of his life. Ugh, I was so sad. But Mason did such a good job.
I wrote, his heart is so big. His brain is so small.
It's so small.
But his heart is so big.
He does really want the best for everyone. And then we're at the church with Daisy. All that goes down that we talked about. And then Reggie.
Hold on. I have something important to say about the last scene with Daisy and Stan in the church.
Yes.
Because this is something that I still don't fully understand what happened. So Stan's having a breakdown and he's like, I will go cross over, but first I need God to apologize, basically. Yeah. And something breaks in the church window, which we know is some hooligans, and Daisy's yelling at them. And then his light comes and it looks like God coming out of the window, and then he goes into his light. Mm-hmm. Now, every single time we have seen someone's afterlife show up, it's been blue light. God was white, not blue.
Right.
And I don't know what that means.
I think the blue light, because you remember when we had the yoga scene or whatever, they had the blue light and then the person came out of it and got him or whatever, whatever it was.
Yeah, but the light has always had a tinge of blue to it.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Whenever we first see the light flash onto his face, I think it is tinted blue.
Okay.
I don't know if you, before we see what is supposed to be God.
Yeah.
You see, Daisy runs out and then we see Stan's face and then there's the light.
Because that I couldn't tell if that was just the stained glass windows.
Oh. I just assumed that was his light showing up.
Okay. Because that one I thought was interesting because all of the lights have been blue so far. But then when we talk about God, it's not. And the show has made it very clear that God is not God, but then it is God. And I don't. Right. So I was just like, what does it mean? What does it mean?
I think that's all it was. I think we did get a little bit of blue light before. Again, I could be crazy.
Yeah. Okay.
That is my reasoning behind it. So now we're kind of wrapping things up, and Reggie dressed super cute for school. She started changing her outfit. Roxy's clearly avoiding the group. We don't know why, but she seems to be avoiding the group. She won't stay at the diner. Joy's having her dilemma over her 2 shades of lipstick. And I think she should go full red all the time.
Always.
And then we see what's really sad. Reggie's back at the mall to go talk to her sales lady that she likes, and she sees that the retail worker is having this exact same conversation with another girl, and she wasn't special.
Sorry, speaking of exact same conversation, we missed a moment when Dolores and George were talking about the restraining orders and everything. Mm-hmm. Dolores made a comment to George about smiling. And she was like, that's the first thing you ever said to me. And Dolores was like, no, it's not. Because George was remembering something that Dolores said to her as George, not as Millie. And there was a moment there.
Yeah, and she said, there was that nice girl. It was tragic what happened to her. I was like, that was George. You remember George before she was Millie. Yeah, and then we end on the flashback. And Beth Ann has pushed George into the pool. How dare she? George did not push her, was very mildly nice to her. And she pushes George in so she could be popular. And she starts talking about this like monologue, and she's saying like, this is the day her life changed. And we see the Gravelings come out of the pool. And one of the Gravelings is like, no, not her. And I think that must be the moment they decided she was going to be a Grimm.
Now, about that, George sees the Gravelings.
Yes. And I think that's why they...
super important, because she smiles at them. Mm-hmm. And that's when they whisper that they're not going to take her. Because George... And that is... I don't remember if they ever go into a lot of detail about it. I might be spoiling something minor from... No, but because I don't remember. But I'm pretty sure that isn't true of Reapers in general. I think that's a George thing.
Interesting.
I think. If I remember correctly, that is true, which is not a spoiler for like plot, really.
Right.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, but also this is trivia that I don't know if it's on your trivia list, but when George falls into the pool, the way that she is laying in the water is a recreation of Nirvana's Nevermind album.
Oh, I didn't even think about that. It is not in my trivia. Not great trivia.
I just have Nirvana on the brain.
It happens sometimes. So there was an IMD user review of this episode. It was 9 out of 10. They were very pleased with this episode. They said a lot of things about how much they love the show. But the one thing that I like super agreed with, they talked about how Rocky's an underrated character. And we say that all the time. Like, she should be there more, and she's just not. And I don't understand why, because she's very underrated. For trivia, it's actually another New Orleans thing. It references Schwegmann's supermarket, which apparently used to be a supermarket in New Orleans until 1999. And I have never heard of them. But
you were like 6 in 1999, so
well, yeah, but like people grew up in New Orleans that I was friends with. You think they would have mentioned it at some point if it was that big of a deal, like to mention it in a show? I don't know, but yeah. So that was my only trivia. Sorry, it wasn't super interesting. But there were some goofs that I didn't notice, but like there were a lot. I don't know if this must have been an issue in like recording, but there were a lot of scenes where things happened twice. Like, for example, whenever they're in the mall, when they walk into the store, there's 2 girls that walk in behind them. And then when they finish that scene and like go to the next part of that scene, the same girls walk in again.
They just didn't have enough extras.
Yeah. And then, well, there's another one where like Mason picks up a spoon, and then in the next scene, he like also picks up the spoon again. Like the next cut.
Yeah. See, but things like that, I'm like, how many times have you picked up a spoon and then set it back down and then picked it up again? Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like things like that, I'm just like, well, okay, Mason's a twitchy drug addict. He probably picked up the spoon 82 times.
Yeah, so it was like stuff like that happened. And then this was an actual like goof. In the Waffle House, Theo is supposed to be completely naked. But because of the camera angles, there are some scenes where you can tell that he's wearing something like on the bottom half, and you're not supposed to be able to see anything at all. So
I never caught that.
I also did.
I obviously knew that this old man wasn't completely naked at all times.
Right.
But like I never actually caught that.
I think I did see it when he was sitting at the table with Rube.
Maybe when he was sitting. But I just assumed that it was his towel wrapped around his waist. Because he did have that towel with him.
Yeah. That would make sense. Yeah. So that's that. Who do you want to punch in the face?
Beth Ann.
I want to punch George in the face because she was such a jerk this whole episode.
That's true.
It was so unnecessary.
I mean, at least she had awareness of the fact that she was being a jerk this time. Last time she was being a jerk, she didn't know.
That's true, I guess. But somehow that makes it worse, though, sometimes. Like, if you're actively being a jerk and know you're being a jerk, like...
True.
There's no need to be a jerk. So, who was your MVP?
Mason.
Sweet Mason. I picked him last time. I'm going to say my MVP was Joy.
See, Daisy would have been my MVP this episode, but I picked her last time, so I'm going to pick Mason.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go with Joy because she's just trying to get back out there. And I just want her to have good things. I want her to have nice things. And I want Reggie to stop being mean to her. That's all I want. Yeah, so do you have any predictions for next week or so?
I don't, but only because every time I have a prediction, the show decides to go in a completely irrelevant direction to anything that I think should be happening.
Fair.
Because, like, Daisy's on this faith journey. We still need Rube backstory. Roxy's starting to separate. Mason's got all this good stuff happening. So the next episode will obviously be focused on the dog.
I'm hoping that we're going to get more Roxy story as to why she's avoiding everyone, because it seems like it's like for like on purpose, and so I'd like to know why. So I'm hoping in the next week or so we get that. Something's got to happen with Mason and Daisy. We were so close in the last episode, and I don't know. I feel like we're not getting anything about Rube till like the last episode, so I'm giving
the worst.
It is.
Yeah, that's my bet. Next episode will in fact be JD centric.
Yeah.
Or maybe
also,
we'll just get a Clancy episode.
Ugh, ick. No. Throw him away. We're done with him. But I will say my mind is just like broken. And I was working on these episodes while I was taking my notes. I was watching Burn Notice. And I almost tried taking notes on Burn Notice. I was like, what am I doing? That is not my note show. My notes are about Jet Like Me. Stop it.
I mean,
put everything
you can
down.
take notes on Burn Notice. I take notes a lot of times when I'm watching TV.
But it wasn't even nothing was happening. There was nothing to take notes on. I was just going to write down what happened. I'm like, I don't need to do that. I'm losing my mind. I am losing my mind. I gotta work more at the bar. Having all this time off is not good for me.
I'm losing my mind, but only because it's midnight.
Yes, it is very late. And I have work in the morning.
You do.
It's not till 10, but my watch died.
But we are, my phone died. So,
cool.
Yeah, we're doing great. We're living our best lives. And we would love to hear about you living your best life.
Yes.
You can send us, follow us, like us, subscribe, all of that nonsense that you do when you support someone's art, if you could call this that.
We are art.
You can follow us at Death and Aliens on all of the social medias. You can follow me at EMKAY_superstar.
And you can follow me at CECloud13.
And we will talk to you next week. Maybe we'll be awake when we do it.
We might be.
Bye.